Going to talk to Paul Hackett, who's president of the Irish Travel Agents Association. Do you know how many Irish people are in Rhodes as we speak?
Rhodes has approximately 4 flights per week from Ireland, so you're talking in the order of 700 to 800 passengers per week. TUI have 2 flights per week and Ryanair have 2 flights per week.
And we've also been hearing this morning about Corfu, that there are now issues there with a number of people being forced to leave. Talk to us about that island. Are there many Irish tourists there, do you know?
Slightly more than Rhodes. Instead of 4 flights, Corfu has 6 flights per week, 2 with TUI, 2 with Aer Lingus and 2 with Ryanair. So in the order of 1,000 to 1,200. So in total, between the 2 islands, the maximum would be about 2,000 passengers. That's 10 flights per week. And just to put that in context, Spain, for example, would have 300 flights per week. So we have a sense of the volume of Irish passengers in the destination.
Now, we heard earlier from Ryanair that its flights are continuing. Have other airlines been taking a different approach?
I think it's really important that the airlines continue to fly, because how else are the people who are in the destination going to get home? So the flights need to operate both ways. Ryanair are quite correct to fly, as are TUI at the moment. In both Rhodes and Corfu, the airports are operating. In Rhodes, the fires are very much in the south of the island. It's quite a large island, 80 kilometres from north to south, and the fires are in the south. The main airport is in the north, so 60 kilometres away. Same with Corfu. We have had 1 beach evacuation in Corfu. We haven't had word yet of any hotel evacuations out of Corfu, and the airport is central near Corfu town. So once again, getting in and out of the island is safe. The airlines should continue to fly, because then passengers who wish to come home can return home. And
your own company, I gather you send people to Corfu. What have you been hearing? Have passengers been in touch?
Yeah, we have been in touch with all our passengers who are on Rhodes. Corfu we'll be contacting this morning, because it only came to light late last night, and they appreciated being checked in. They're due to return home later this week, and they were fine. They're aware of the situation. They're also aware of the precautions and aware of the guidance to follow local guidance, to keep their phones charged, keep their phones on roaming, so that the local authorities can get messages to tourists when they're in the destination.
What though if people decide they just don't want to go at the moment? What are their entitlements?
TUI, for example, have a flight out to Rhodes on Wednesday. And if people do not want to travel, it's full refunds, no questions. If people want to change, they can amend their flight. So, when you're booked with a travel agent or a tour operator, you have a lot of protection as a consumer under the Package Travel Directive. That same protection does not apply to consumers who DIY and do it themselves. So I would be encouraging anybody who's due to travel in the next week to 10 days to speak to their travel agent. The geography of these situations is important to understand. The evolving nature of these situations is important to understand. And I think if we look at how the Greeks have handled this, they have evacuated 19,000 people safely from hotels, albeit into gymnasiums and into school halls where they don't want to be spending their holidays. But we have had no reports of any casualties or any deaths at this stage. So in fairness to the Greek authorities, with assistance from some of the neighbouring countries, they have done a remarkably good job.
It's not just about the fires though, is it? It's about the extreme temperatures. We've had 2 guests talking to us this morning from Greece, and in both cases they've said, it is really, really unpleasant. Will what's happening this summer, will it change some people's attitudes to sun holidays? Because 35 or 40 degrees, there's nothing enjoyable about that.
It's hard to know is the straight answer. Yes, it will have an impact on some people, but a lot of people, families with young children and people who work in the education sector, are confined to July and August. Likewise, if we look at last week, there was no heatwave, for example, in Portugal or the Algarve. Pretty much nothing in France. We have some of our staff working in France during the summer, and they're saying this year is much more pleasant than last year. So weather, as we have experienced in this country for the last month, is localised. We're caught up in our own rain vortex. Greece is in the unlikely position of having a heat vortex.
We know, though, that climate change is real, and we know that flights are part of the problem. They're contributing to greenhouse gas emissions. Will there come a point when our habits will have to change?
I think no one is denying the climate situation, but the travel industry and the airlines, you will have heard from Ryanair earlier this morning when they were reporting their profit figures, and their key focus has been sustainability. The travel industry is absolutely focused on the sustainability measures, be it the airlines, and we're lucky in this country. We have people like Ryanair working on, improved fuel efficiency, working on newer aircraft. Aer Lingus also have a new fleet. We have the cruise lines.
It might make some difference, but we're talking about a difference at the edges, really, aren't we? When we look at the scale of the problem.
The scale of the problem is massive, but then then the scale of the problem has to also fall on other countries within the global environment. We have Russia, USA, China, India, Brazil doing nothing about it. So the responsibility can't solely fall on Irish consumers and their holiday habits. This needs to be a global effort.
All right, just finally, in relation to your own company, if people want to cancel their holiday with you at the moment, say they were due to go to Corfu or to Rhodes later in the week, will you give them a full refund?
We will be looking at it on a case-by-case basis, as are TUI, as are all travel companies. No travel agent will put any consumer at risk in a safety situation, and we will always listen to the consumer. We'll have to follow what the local guidelines is. It's clear that the Department of Foreign Affairs has normal precautions applying to all Greek destinations. So travel is allowed, flights are operating, airports are operating. So everybody will be looking at this on a case-by-case basis, but with the safety of the consumer being paramount.
Paul Hackett, President of the Irish Travel Agents Association, thank you for joining us on Morning Ireland.